I'm gonna go ahead and get this kicked off. Once again, thank you all for being here this evening. Welcome to our public meeting to feature the Bowling Green Park Master Plan and Visionary. My name is Adam Shorter and I'm a Recreation Supervisor for the City of Denton Parks and Recreation Department. Along with us, we have our Parks and Recreation Director, Gary Packin, our Assistant Parks and Recreation Director, Drew Huffman, and our Parks Planning Manager, John Whitmore. I would also like to introduce our consultants here with us tonight from Pacheco Koch Consulting Engineers. We have Wade Peterson and Trisha Wolver. They designed and are going to present the concepts for the Bowling Green Master Park and Visionary. Before we go further, just kind of wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. First off, you can ask questions anytime using the Q&A button on the bottom of the Zoom screen. We may not be able to get to your question in the middle of the presentation. However, your questions will be monitored, and one of us that is not speaking may be able to respond in text. Once the presentation is over, we will answer the remaining Q&A questions. At this point, we may also open up the group up for verbal questions. Please use the Zoom hand raising feature, and we will answer the questions in the order that they are received. If you're joining us from a mobile device, please adjust your name to show your name only and not your cell phone number. And at this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Wade and Trisha to start their presentation for the master plan.
Thank you, Adam. I can share my screen here. Can you see my screen? Okay. Thank you again for having us and sharing this presentation. I know this is an important time with the climate in the world, and just knowing how important the green spaces are for everybody, and just knowing just how important it is with the climate that we live in, just how much we need to enhance and nurture our public spaces. Here is an existing site condition of what you have now. You've got an existing half-mile trail that I know is about 8 feet wide, and a new play equipment here that I know is fairly new. You've got an existing planting bed that I know is utilized by the entire community, not just in this adjacent neighborhood, but throughout the city. And so we hope to use up much of the park real estate to enhance that, and you'll see that in the coming concepts. You've got some future park expansion that we hope to utilize on the east side, and have some major connections through there too on the east side. So next slide, let's see. This is our first concept. As you can see here, we've got a new connecting loop that's a 10-foot wide trail that hopefully will act as a new jogging trail that connects the whole entire thing, that will add about a quarter of a mile, complete quarter of a mile loop trail that should attract young families and joggers and families to the park. This concept shows a linear concept for the community gardens. At least right now, I think your community garden plots are about 1/3 of an acre, and this concept increases the square footage to over 1/2 an acre of garden plots, enabling more users to rent the plots. And so this will also include raised garden beds right here for ADA accessibility, for better accessibility and inclusivity for the community. We've added a 20 by 40 pavilion here at the center, right adjacent to the garden plots. This will enable shade and use for picnics, and also for any kind of classes that you might have for the garden community. We have a new parking area designation here for parallel parking, and this should probably accommodate 6 to 7 parking spots. We also have a new layout of the fruit tree orchard here. This should accommodate about 24 and possibly more. We have also some benches and trash receptacles that we've dotted all along the trail to make use of the views and watching the play area and also the gardens. Next slide. Again, these are some precedent and inspirational images just to show you what these elements could look like. And again, these concepts are not final. And this is what we're here for, is to get your feedback and input as what you would like to see and what these things could look like. And at the end of the survey, at the end of the presentation, we'd like to get a survey of what appeals to you. And if there's any other images that speaks to you, you're welcome to please send that along. We'll send you a link to where you can send those to us, and also an email. So again, the linear garden beds, these are some images that we thought would look great in the spaces. We were thinking of more of a concrete or a hard edge structure so that they'll have a more permanent structure to them with decomposed granite or a more permanent path in between. I know right now you have a 15 by 15 or 11 by 20 plots for rental. So these right now will accommodate quite a bit more than what you currently have, almost double the size that you currently have at the moment. And again, these are some options for the raised planter beds. And these are the pavilion options shown for that 20 by 40. Here again are some images of some site furnishings that you could potentially use and see for some of the planting areas and for the site amenities for this concept. Concept 2, this one is a little bit more elaborate. We went with a radial concept for this one. And in the center, you've got a larger pavilion. It's a 40 by 40 pavilion here. And we've got a considerable big amount of community garden plots here as well. And this is almost double the size as you have now, just like before. You've got also a stand of nut tree orchard on the southwest here, and also a fruit tree orchard stand on the right. We've got a angled parking that we've provided here, which provides about approximately 10 spots here with new striping and curb, and some seating and some shade trees that we've dotted along the new trail. Same concept as first concept, where we've got another quarter of a mile that we've added to the park that loops around. And again, we've provided a potential access to the east side for potential new future development or park development for the east side there. And again, these are some images of what we think these elements could look like. We've got a circular pattern of planting. And again, I know these show some flowering and cut gardens, but these can definitely be garden plots. We've got some raised and metal structures here, but these can be the concrete structures. But we just wanted to show how it could look like with the form of the circular pattern and the radial pattern here. And again, this is what we would like to see for this concept. If we went with these kind of pavilions with the 40 by 40 and a larger, more encompassing pavilion for this concept right in the center of this park plaza here. Here's some stands of fruit trees and nut trees. And again, here's some planting concept. And again, we were showing to see if maybe you would prefer a concrete path in between the planting beds or a gravel pathways. And again, some different options for bench seating and some trash. And concept 3, this is the most elaborate out of all of them. We really went and expanded the trail for this one all the way north. Wanted to really make sure and use up all of the park real estate. And this really takes the trail almost to a 1 mile loop. You've got also then used up the amount of real estate on the south side too, and using all that space for a community garden and or cutting garden on the south side with a more expansive raised garden area for ADA accessibility. We've moved the fruit tree stand over to the east side and having that more all along on that edge. We've got quite a big, larger parking area here with head-in parking that's should accommodate 13 spots, maybe more potentially. We've got a larger pavilion here that's about 50 by 50, and we were thinking of using the fabric type pavilion here that comes in different shapes and colors, and we could show you that in the following slide. And again, we dotted some trees here with shade that, and have had them all the way on the north side as well, just to add more shade and interest along the trail. And as in the other ones, we have included benches and other seating all along along the trail. As you can see, these are some images that we thought this curvilinear concept could look like, and how the edge treatments can be used with different materials. Again, also with the raised beds and ADA accessibility, these are some options that we can go with. And again, with the pavilion structure, these again can be however you would like these to look, and the forms that they can take on with some more enhanced paving underneath that. This is it's a lot closer to the playground too, and can be utilized both for play and for classes. And again, oops. Sorry about that. Here we go. Some images of site furnishings, planting schemes in the fruit tree orchard. Something to add for this concept, since we're utilizing a larger piece, we had introduced another element, having a labyrinth in this concept. This typically is something that's included in a space that's more quiet and meditative. So we wanted to make sure this was located away from the main activity on the south side. So we have this shown potentially by a tree, like somewhere away from the more active amenities. And again, these shows the different ways the materials can be formed with planting or with hardscape on these images. So those are the 3 main concepts. Again, we are definitely very much still in the concept phase, and we hope to gather all your input and feedback. I don't know if Drew wants to go over the process of how we need to get to the final plans, but essentially these are our process, going through this concept with you, gathering your feedback and making sure that we incorporate your feedback and the city's needs and funding fiscally, and making sure that it makes sense with the city and the maintenance requirements, and make sure then we present it to the board before we have final construction plans. Again, we welcome your thoughts and input. This is our SurveyMonkey link, And all these images and concepts are in this link and questionnaire. If you want to jot this down, and I will also put it on the chat so that it'll be easy. And you're also welcome to put your phone over to this QR code if you're able. But otherwise, I'll also put this link in the chat box so that you can have it. But if there's any questions, please, you're welcome to ask them now and we'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Tricia. So as Trish said, right now we'll go ahead and open up the Q&A forum. If you have a question, you can type it into the Q&A, or if you want to raise your hand, we can possibly do our verbal questions now as well.
So Adam, as we're waiting for anyone to raise their hand, I wanted to answer a couple questions. So the trail is planned to go all the way north to Windsor and go both east and west, going west to connect to North Lakes Rec Center and the trails and the playground at North Lakes, and go east to connect over to the new Fireside subdivision and up and over to the new to the trail over on that side of North Lakes. That way you can go both ways. We did talk to traffic as of right now, which it could change, but as of right now, they don't want to put a mid-block, what they call a mid-block crossing or another mid-block crossing on Windsor. We do have one up at the North Lakes Rec Center. So, but that could change as this plan moves forward. And we have a hand raised with Drew, if you want to.
Go ahead, Drew.
All right, Drew, I think you can speak now. You're unmuted.
Thank you, staff and the representative from Penn Chicocock. I really appreciate y'all's design. I think they're really interesting. Thank you for answering. My first question was going to involve the trails. Specifically, are they going to connect to North Lakes on the north and Fireside on the northeast? As a resident, I would love to see that. I think there was a question asked about, is there a way to incorporate a design where the design of number 2 with the large trail loop in design 3, I think that's a great direction.
Okay.
And truth be told, no matter which 3 you choose, I think I'm really grateful for all of Denton's investment in this park. And I'm happy to see any one of them come to fruition. Thank you all.
Thank you. Those are great ideas, and we're open to discussion too about, we're not set in stone with these options about combining different parts of each option and coming up with our own. We did that actually whenever we built the new dog park at North Lakes. So we had many different options. So, all right, thank you. We have Matt Pradita. Pranita. I'm going to mess that last name up, but go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, so one of the plans that I saw had had trees lining the extended path, that is going to be like a kind of a running track. And I like that layout. I guess my question is there going to be any kind of lighting along that, so that way it's kind of safer at night or as it gets darker, later on in the year?
I think we could definitely look at that. Something that we looked at on the new Mayhill Trail is so we like to plant trees in that 30 to 40 foot range. And with the lights that we're using, if you've been over to the North Lakes Dog Park, we're really liking these new solar lights that we found. So the tree would be on every 40 feet, it would be on the opposite, a tree would be on the opposite side of the trail. And obviously a light would be across from the tree. That way you have a constant light span. And the lights over at the North Lakes Dog Park, they're solar, and we have them dimmed down to 20 to 30% when no one is active underneath them. And when they sense activity within 50 feet, they light up. They notice your activity's gone, they go back down. And then they're direct lights. They don't shine up. They only shine exactly onto the path and onto the area where we really direct it to. That way, anyone living in that area with that added light, added to this park, it wouldn't affect them. So, but yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you.
And I
All
see
right,
it.
next up we got Mary. Mary, you're unmuted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Well, I guess I'm one of the few people here who's not entirely excited about this plan. I have a few concerns as somebody who lives right by the park. I can see it from my porch. One of the concerns being that it is not a very big park. I'm concerned about the concrete to grass ratio. I go to that park daily to walk. The width of it is not very wide, so I'm curious as to how many feet of actual grass and greenness we're going to have between the two sidewalks that circle around. I'm concerned about the idea of attracting people that are outside the neighborhood, and that is not meant to sound elitist or exclusive or anything like that. My concern is that we have seen a significant increase in crime over the past year, and a significant increase in traffic and speeding down these neighborhood roads. I'm not sure why there's opposition to this remaining a small little neighborhood park. I'm done.
No, that's really good input. And, our idea here is to really make this park a lot, better than what it is today. And, the main thing, Gary and I, whenever we went to the park and really started looking on how can we make this better, making our community garden that is there ADA accessible. That's probably, if I wanted to put the number one thing that we wanted to do at this park, it would be make our gardens there ADA accessible and cleaner and just look nicer for that area, especially for people like you that are residents that really share that space with us, and to us, that's your park. That's something that you can call your own. So we want to make that nice for you, but we really appreciate your input on that. And then I'm not sure, Teresa, could you give a really good estimate of the distance between the current trail and the proposed trail?
We can't, let me look at.
This is
Other
Gary.
than-
This is Gary Packin, Director of Parks and Recreation. Mary, I have a question for you, and maybe this is for anybody in general. I know that Windsor was closed for a period of time last year, and obviously that drove traffic through the neighborhood. Do you still see that same level of traffic cutting through the neighborhood since Windsor has reopened?
Well, we definitely, when Windsor was closed, we saw a lot
Sure.
of traffic. So no, we're not seeing as much traffic, but we are seeing an increase in traffic because there's an increase of people. That Fireside debacle over there has brought all kinds of people over here, and that's just how it's going to be. But my concern is that ADA accessibility to the gardens is definitely a good thing. ADA accessibility to get to Windsor to cross over to North Lakes is a good thing, but the amount of cement that you're talking about for pavilions and additional trails, and I mean the whole idea behind a park, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm just too old, is that there's actual grass and there's greenness, and you can actually walk around and actually walk on grass. Maybe lay down a picnic blanket and sit on grass. The amount of concrete that you're talking about with these proposed designs, it's either covered in concrete or it's covered in trees. Or another question, how many people actually use the community garden? I mean, I see people kind of using it. Do you have a number of how many people sign up each year? What does that look like?
Yeah, I can pull that number up here. I have it 1 second. I can put it in the chat as soon as I pull it up.
And then we can also look at if it's not, maybe it's not concrete. Maybe it's either crushed granite or a pervious pavement
I
or
just wonder
or
what is your opposition to actual grass? What is the
uh,
opposition to actual grass in a park?
there's no opposition at all. We have had almost 50 public meetings, including this one tonight. And the number one thing that our residents have asked for are more trails. And so with that, you know, the first thing that we looked at with this park is how do we give an act, you know, how do we enhance the neighborhood residents experience at this park? And if more trails are not what you want in this area, then we won't put more trails there.
Well, do trails have to
So-
be made of concrete? It seems
No,
like people
No,
can't
that's
get
what,
from point A to
yeah,
point
and that's what I was
without
getting
concrete.
into, that it may not be concrete. It could be, for instance, we have a new parking lot going in at McKenna Park, and it's a grid pattern. It almost looks like honeycomb, and it's made out of recycled plastic, and it's not concrete, but yet it still has the same capabilities of a concrete parking lot.
What's
We
the
have a,
problem with a dirt trail, with a trail made out of ground? Like
there's not,
actual ground, like walking on the ground. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that the city does a wonderful job of keeping the grass really well kept. That's something that's very enjoyable to me as someone who actively uses the park on a daily basis. The grass is mowed down. It's very nice. What is the problem with people walking on grass, or people in wheelchairs can actually roll their wheelchairs on grass? I see people do it. People with strollers can roll their strollers on grass. Why does there have to be concrete? It seems like people have a problem with mobilizing unless there's concrete underneath or gravel or a path. What's the issue with walking on grass, pushing your strollers on grass?
I can't answer for everyone other than that's the biggest thing that we've heard with all our surveys and all the meetings that we've had. But you do make a good point. So
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Mark and Jenny McGee.
Hi there. First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for making the investment in this park. Secondly, I would like to voice that I am actually one of the people who would like to see more trails. And I guess I am not averse to concrete because I don't care for the crushed granite option, simply because when it rains, that becomes very sometimes treacherous. I like to walk the trail, the wildflower trail, and I know that it can cause issues back there. After the presentations, I think they were fantastic, and any of the options would be wonderful. I did just want to express that I feel like the canvas a pavilion would end up not looking as nice over the years, and have a tendency to tear and have issues. So if you were looking at those options, I would prefer one of the more permanent, less easily tearable or affected by hail options. But I really love the expanded trail, and I think that that's wonderful. Connecting to the parks is a big thing for us. Like walking in a simple loop around that park is not as fun, and it's really nice to live in this neighborhood. We have access to both parks, and being able to connect them is wonderful. I would just add that I hope more work could be done with traffic, because it is challenging right now. The only exit out of the neighborhood with a crosswalk, you got to walk over to North Lake and then cross. So if they're going to connect it, I would really like for traffic to reconsider that option as about adding a traffic block, because there's not really a safe place for families to cross right now unless they go over to the rec center. And that's it.
we totally agree. That's why we brought that up to traffic, and hopefully if we keep bringing it up, maybe we can get our way whenever this does come to fruition. But thank you. And as someone that oversees park maintenance and deals with maintaining our parks on a daily basis, our hard structure pavilions are really what our guys would lean to versus the cloth ones. But
I would also add, I don't quite understand the argument about needing the grass, but also not liking the gardens, and how many people does that serve? Because interestingly, the grass would be more expensive to maintain overall. Watering grass and all that, and keeping it mowed is challenging, while individuals are in charge of their plots. And I really love the garden concept, and I think that having it is an asset to here, even if it draws people from outside the community.
thank you.
All right, next up, we have Lauren Penn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hi, thank you so much for having this meeting. I live on Georgetown Drive and lived here for 7 years. I'm currently raising 2 girls who are ages 7 and 5, and we like to call Bowling Green our big backyard because we use it pretty much every day, sometimes twice a day. My husband and I like to take walks in the morning with our dog, and then after school, we're at the park playing with friends. We've used Bowling Green for almost every birthday party because it's a free option to gather. So we are really excited about the pavilion option. I think any of the permanent structures would be a really great option just for safety and the ability to take shelter if it ever rains or is just really, really sunny. I would say from the standpoint, I've been visiting the park now for 7 years. We have lots of friends with kids. So the playground upgrade has been wonderful. And I do love wide open spaces. I think having a grassy area for kids to play is super valuable. I also think having the long loop with the concrete in option 3 would be utilized so much by the kids in the neighborhood because unfortunately our neighborhood has no sidewalks. So my girls cannot rollerblade on our streets because they're too bumpy and it's too dangerous. And they also are not allowed to really ride bikes on the street because it's also too dangerous. And our neighborhood Facebook group has been talking with Jesse Davis recently about the speeding issues, specifically in our neighborhood. So hopefully our streets department will find some solutions for that. So all that to say, the current stretch of sidewalk on Bowling Green is our only option for kids to rollerblade, to bike, completely unattended, which provides them a little bit of independence for those kids that are maybe under 10. And in this day and age, it's really important for kids to have that ability to explore. And Bowling Green is a really great option for families of younger kids because you can see pretty long distances. I can sit at the park under the shade of a tree and see them walk all the way down. So I think the long loop on option 3 is going to be a really great option. And I think I'd prefer sort of the layout of option 1 that provides more of the green grassy space around the playground and less of the orchard right next to the playground. My kids love to climb trees. And so I would expect, and the Parks Department just might need to be prepared for the kids to want to climb those trees if they are right next to the playground. So that could become an issue. One other thing I just wanted to bring up, and I don't know, maybe that someone from the Parks Department could sort of enlighten me, is what are the minimum requirements for putting in a simple restroom? We have, even though we live just a couple streets over from the park, we've had a lot of emergencies with our kids, and sometimes we can't make it home. And so our kids will have to either find a little bush somewhere, I mean, in true emergencies, or just a place to be able to wash your hands or use the restroom. So I was curious, that's something else I was kind of curious about.
Gary, you may answer that, or you want to?
Sure. So restrooms are not cheap, and they are a challenge to keep clean. So that's always an ongoing challenge. So they are high maintenance. From a neighborhood park perspective, we are trying to not necessarily put restrooms in every single park. We can always look at porta-johns, portable units. They are not the most aesthetically pleasing and always clean facility either. So the thought process is a neighborhood park is basically intended for the neighborhood that people could run home to use the restroom. Now, Lauren, with your comments, I totally understand that. I've been there before with my kids, and they usually don't give you a lot of heads up. So it is a challenge. and it's something that we try balancing in regards to the amount of resources we have, and we can't put restrooms everywhere in every park. So that's a strategic discussion that we continuously have. It is a very high request by the community, and they are not necessarily they are not cheap either. So we appreciate that feedback for sure.
That makes sense. And I just wanted to add, very excited about having such an ADA accessible park. I feel like it's a very underserved community, part of our community. So I'm just really thrilled and very, very proud that is something that you're prioritizing, and I'm very excited. And we tell all of our friends who live outside of Denton that we're just so proud of our parks and just so thankful for them.
Well, thank you very much. We are going through an ADA transition plan right now, study. We've hired a firm, I guess it was 2 years ago. The city had all the sidewalks conducted and evaluated for improvement and making sure they're meeting all requirements. And this year we started in February to look at all of our facilities and all of our parks, including trails, pavilions, access points. So in fact, in the next couple days, they're going to be going through our parks and literally looking at the pitch and sidewalks and parking lots and signage to make sure that we are ADA compatible and meeting all of those requirements. And if we're not, they will give us a plan on the priorities that need to be addressed and anticipated costs for those as well. So we're looking at the entire park system as we speak to make sure that we're meeting those needs.
Thanks for that, Gary. All right, we got a couple more questions left. Right now we have Susie. Go ahead, Susie.
Hi, yeah, thanks for sharing all of these plans. I'm definitely a fan of the larger loop. While I don't think I would use it that much myself as an adult, as a child, we would zip all around a park in our neighborhood, and we would just go in circles on our bikes and just zip around and chase each other. So I agree that I think it would be really beneficial to younger children. I'd like to put in another vote to connect at a mid-block crossing across Windsor. Currently, when we are walking from our house to North Lakes Park, we cut through Bowling Green and we cross right there at Windsor. Part of it is that at intersections, there's more turning cars, and a lot of times drivers don't yield. So it just feels safer when you just have to deal with a car coming from one way and the other and not have to deal with turning vehicles. So I'd like to put another vote in for that, even though I know the traffic engineers have to approve it. I really like the connection to the new development. Kind of thinking forward about that. And I was curious if y'all have a way to reach out directly to the people using plots currently. Like, do they like the idea of raised beds, or do they kind of like the more natural state that it's been in? But I certainly do like at least having some raised beds for ADA, or if there's somebody who maybe can't bend over very much, giving them an option as well. I do like that.
With the raised beds, we've had some requests for raised beds. The initial requests were to put in something like a railroad cross ties, and that's not something that we wanted to do at all. So we came up, with almost like the concrete border that we have underneath our fencing to really separate, because you're all right. Some people take care of their plots a lot better than others, and there's been some concern about, your plot's growing into my plot, and vice versa. So really with that idea of the raised beds and really singling it out to where, you know exactly where your plot is, it's pretty well lined out the way it is today, and just giving it that better visual aspect of what the raised, what the gardens are meant to be, and really even what they can be, with the ADA accessible plots. So.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they all won't be raised, 2 feet, 3 feet up. Some will just have, a small border around it, and some will be at different heights. So
yeah, sometimes I can't tell which plot is which. So I agree.
we question sometimes too. So
thank you.
We have put a copy of the survey in the chat. We will email this to everybody that signed up for the meeting, and that way you could provide additional communication and questions. We will be posting this presentation as well as the video on our city website and sharing that link too. So that way you can continue to ask additional questions on the park itself. We are concurrently working on a parks master plan, so you have opportunities in that avenue to ask questions as well. Drew, we have 2 more hands raised.
Yes, we'll go ahead and go with Mark.
Hi, this is Lori. I'm just signed in as my husband, Mark. We live right across the street from the park, right at the corner of Bowling Green and Auburn. We love this park. I just want to give a kudos to you guys for the new playground. It was definitely needed. When you guys had the fencing up around it while they were working on it, it was so fun to watch the kids look around and see what new stuff was going to be coming in and just get really excited about it. And so I see the work that you're doing now to create a master plan to enhance the park as being something like that everybody will be excited about the changes that are coming. We've used the community garden. And I do think that some kind of delineation between the plots is needed. So that's a good sign there. Also, the parking, I think, is real haphazard right now on the street there. So some designated parking is also a positive. I'd like to see the fruit tree, the orchard, in the one plan you had it kind of across the street from the parking, I believe, in that area. Is that correct? That would be, I think, better if the trees are away from the playground area, and allow more of that play area to be open for not only playing on the playground, but then just running in the grass and playing Frisbee. And we see a lot of that there also. I like the trail with the larger loop also. We've ridden our bikes on the concrete trail, and then when we want to go look at that little stream, drainage stream over there, it's kind of difficult to ride on the grass. And I know that concrete would be more cost effective in the long run, especially for maintenance, as opposed to pea gravel or other kinds of surfaces there. But maybe you could just make it not, I don't know what the width might be for that, but I know sometimes 8 feet might be too wide, would definitely be too wide. But maybe if it mimics the current width of the trail that's along there now, that would be nice as well. And I like the lighting idea, especially if it's something that would go out when people are not using it. And then I understand a need for a bathroom, but I know they are expensive. My concern with that would be, we do have a lot of homeless people that set up often in the woods between Fireside and the park. It hasn't been quite as bad lately as it has been in the past, but they are back now. And I think a bathroom would just be a draw for those people to come there also. Again, thank you so much for allowing us the opportunity to provide feedback on the plan. And I hope that you'll keep us in the loop as things progress so we can continue to provide feedback. Thank you.
Adam, there's one more comment, Josh, and then as I mentioned earlier, after Josh is done, we'll have all this information on the website and our social media, so you can continually communicate with us, as well as our contact information that can be shared. So you can call us, email us, whatever is convenient for you.
All right, go ahead, Josh.
Josh, you're unmuted.
Josh, try to go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
We might have to promote him to a panelist because I think he
Yeah.
might be using an older version.
We lost him.
Yeah, we
No,
lost him.
he's there.
Yeah.
He's there.
Oh.
Hang on. Let me try this. Josh, can you hear us now?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we can.
So yeah, I think the general consensus is 1 or 2 is probably the best bet. With the trail going all the way to Windsor, but a big part of that is there definitely needs to be a safe way to cross over Windsor to North Lakes Park. As someone who uses the neighborhood quite a bit, you guys probably see me and my wife and dog walk in the neighborhood. It does get a little bit sketchy sometimes because there is no safe place to exercise in the neighborhood. I think that long trail really gives everyone the opportunity, kids and adults alike, to really use the park to its fullest extent. Do you guys have a time frame of when you want to get started and how long the construction will take place?
We don't have a time frame at this moment, but what we do know is every year Texas Parks and Wildlife accepts grant applications, and for you to be able to put your name in the hat, for those grants and go after and put your application in, you have to have your master plan complete for the park or the amenity or whatever the case is that you're going after those funds for. So that's what we're doing here. We don't have, we do have some money to spend at Bowling Green, but obviously if Texas Parks and Wildlife can double the amount of money that we have at the moment, it makes it even better. And right now, really, we're seeing lots of other grants open up in this year, and it should be around in the next couple years, with one being AARP. Kubota actually has one that closes in just a couple weeks, a small grant, and every little dollar counts. So we, John and I will be going after, and his group going after lots of grants in the next couple years. So we have to, we're going to have this master plan complete, really get all your input in, and come back and have something really. We want to get it what we call shovel ready. So once this gets complete, we'll do construction documents, and then that way we can submit all this put this all in our application and make it really look nice and shine above everyone else.
Awesome. And I do like the idea of the covered pavilion, but I definitely think the canvas top would be less effective and more probably cost a lot more in the long run, just because of Texas weather.
You're muted, Gary.
I agree. They don't last as long as the hard surfaces, for sure. Well, we appreciate everybody's time. Like I said, we're going to have this on our website and social media. Please share this with your neighbors. Let us know what you think. This is your park, and we want to make the improvements to meet the community's needs and the neighborhood's needs. So we want to do everything we can to help that space be the best it can for you, and maximize your recreational opportunities and connectivity, especially to North Lakes Park and the amenities that are going there. We'll be finalizing a new tennis center in the near future, and then we have our new dog park too. So we look forward to the improvements and the feedback from you. Again, we're doing a parks master plan as well, and that's covering our entire park system basically for the next 10 years. But really further than that, next 25, 50 years into the future. So we appreciate your feedback. You can check our website. We have future meetings for that as well. And we always appreciate your feedback anytime. It doesn't have to be necessary at a park meeting. But thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, Gary. And like I said, be sure to reach out to us if y'all have any other questions or everything. And it is 6:00. We will go ahead and close it out. So thank you all again for coming, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.